Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast where you'll hear conversations with academic librarians, technologists, researchers, and authors whose work is laying the foundation for higher education's future. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. If you're new to the Authority File, you can listen to and find previous episodes on all of the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and on our website, choice360.org. Academic libraries are changing. There's no doubt about that. Space, access, and formats are being redefined. In some operational areas, COVID has quickened the pace of change, while in others, libraries are adapting in the face of shrinking budgets, shifting institutional priorities, and new opportunities with digital resource acquisition and management. In this four-part series, which is provided with support from OverDrive, my guests and I discuss these changes as they impact the academic library community, including the publishers and vendors who serve it. Joining me are Tracy Holtman, Associate Director of Access and Collection Services at Tarleton State University, Susanna Smith, Acquisitions Librarian at Georgia Highlands College, Paige Clunie, Digital Partnerships Manager at Princeton University Press, and Stephen Rosato, General Manager at OverDrive Academic. In this final episode of our four-part series, my guests look ahead at the potential workflow changes, budget considerations, and where innovation is likely to happen, and upcoming digital content trends. Okay, so let's talk about looking ahead. I'm wondering, Tracy and Susanna, what kinds of workflow changes, perhaps, do you see happening in your particular area of expertise at the library? How are you expecting to see those develop moving forward? Tracy, start with you.
Wow, this is a hard question.
Yeah.
We do a lot of not consortial. Well, we do have a lot of consortial agreements for databases and for our print journal titles, or our electronic journal titles. So a lot of that, a lot of consortium buying, trying to value our money. Expertise reading license agreements. When you said expertise a while ago, that was the first thing that came to my mind. But we're also looking more toward our system, our group system, Texas A&M system for purchasing power that way. So those are some forward strategies that we're trying to get going.
Right. So you're talking about sort of leveraging a bigger purchasing power to presumably generate more savings,
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Susanna, how about you?
Yeah, the university system here it's called Galileo, which is the Georgia kind of virtual library system. But we have a cost share program where all the institutions can get together and leverage that to make lower cost for databases that several institutions want to do. So we're certainly going to keep leveraging that. In terms of workflow for me personally, I'm spending a lot more time at my computer in my office and a lot less time at the reference desk and in the stacks.
Yeah.
Because, there aren't that many people in here for me to go out and do one-on-one reference. I'm on virtual chat. I'm on the virtual reference desk, and that's all sitting here at my computer. I miss being out in the stacks and working with the books and working with the students. But that's the big thing. I'm the acquisitions librarian. But here at Georgia Highlands, all the librarians wear all the hats. So, I'm a reference and instruction librarian too. So I'm still doing teaching. I'm embedded in online courses. The biggest change in that part of my workflow is starting in the fall. All of the library faculty are going to be teaching 4-credit classes as part of our regular workload.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a huge change in kind of how we manage our lives, because, when you've got a class of 25 students, you've got to now, you're not working the reference desk. You're not working the virtual reference desk. You're going to be working in your course, and you're going to be doing grading and developing content. So that's the new and big thing. And as the acquisitions librarian, for me, it's balancing that.
Yeah.
Acquisitions librarian is a full-time job at a lot of institutions. And so now I'm like, okay, so now I've got my acquisitions pot of time, and I've got my reference and instruction pot of time, and then I've got my faculty pot of time, and just figuring out how to balance everything.
Right.
Tracy, are you?
I just want
Yep.
to add
Go
one
ahead.
thing. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we are short 9 staff, not staff positions, 9 positions here in the library. And so right now I'm doing about 3 jobs already. So I don't know how things are going to change, but I know that we're hoping to hire more staff and be able to not specialize more because we all do everything here, but be able to focus more time on specific jobs because now it's all hands on deck for everything.
Mm-hmm. Hypothetically, I mean, what would some of those, where would you like to put your focus?
Um, well, I do like the acquisitions
Yep.
part of the job, and I also oversee access, whether it's the print books or the electronic. So access is kind of, I guess, my focus, my
Mm-hmm.
my favorite. But we are starting like additional faculty services for faculty, a faculty focus, more an undergraduate focus, or a graduate student focus. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how those type things affect what we buy, how they can affect our acquisitions. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of cost savings, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, and investment. Can you talk about where your libraries will be focusing efforts in each of those buckets? I mean, how do you see things progressing moving forward? Susanna, we'll jump over to you.
Let's see, on the instruction side of the house, I think that our one-shots, as I mentioned before, will probably go down.
Yeah.
We'll be doing a lot more of the 4-credit classes. I think we'll still be doing a lot of embedded work, just being an embedded presence in online classes. And I think that our asynchronous modules will certainly ramp up. On the acquisition side of the house, I'm hoping to keep that kind of nice and steady.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna be on the look for vendors who can offer content at an affordable price for a small institution that I can then leverage into better services and better access for our students and faculty. But hopefully that won't change too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tracy, you mentioned working with the consortia. I mean, what else, where else do you see changes happening moving forward?
The university is really growing in the programs we're offering. We've just added our second and third doctorate, and so we're expanding the academic scope of the university. So I see us
Mm-hmm.
really having to purchase materials to support that. So I feel like that's where the majority of whatever library budget we have is going to go to. So it will
Yep.
definitely go to a what is being requested, whereas before, we this would be great if we had this, what if our students need this someday? No, it'll definitely be, this is what we need to support this individual class or this individual class project. And we definitely look at it as what we are spending versus what we are gaining for that, a cost per use. That is our focus on everything now, is our return on investment.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's a good segue into this next question. Moving forward, and we talked a little bit about this earlier in an earlier episode, but how do you see libraries adjusting their value proposition to remain aligned with institutional priorities? Obviously, this has always been a focus even before the pandemic. But I'm curious, as we emerge from that, if there are any new factors, for example, relating to equity, access, and others, that are revealing themselves, that are being added or included in this sort of value statement, in alignment with institutional priorities. Anything occur to you, Susanna?
So since the pandemic, Georgia Highlands has created its 2021-2026 strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And we have also developed a new set of general education competencies assessment groups for SACS accreditation. And the library is very, very intentional to focus and to align with those strategic goals where they're appropriate. So, the library supports this strategic goal by doing this. The library supports this strategic goal by doing this. And all the librarians actually serve on the general education assessment teams. So we are saying, okay, so if digital information literacy is one of the competencies, here's how we support that. If
Mm-hmm.
public speaking is one of the competencies, here's how we support that. And we basically just try to make sure that everybody knows that we're here and that we're integral to the fabric of the university.
Right.
Because it's so easy to get lost if we don't keep saying, hey, don't forget about us. Don't forget about us.
Right, exactly. Tracy, how about you?
I will, as I mentioned, the university's growing, and there's real push to become a research institution known for our research. And so I know that the library is an important part of that cog for them to do that,
Yeah.
to provide the resources that the faculty need for their research, for the students as they're learning that. And so that is, we make that known. Hey, as you're pushing toward this, we can help you, and here's how. We, as another big push of the university, is diversity and inclusion for all. That's one of our new strategic plan, and so the library's made real efforts to be part of that move as well, in our collections, in our programming, whatever we do. So we definitely try to tie ourselves to the university institutional priorities.
Excellent. Excellent. Paige, I'm going to jump over to you. So discussion about university presses invariably lands on how they're innovating and, to stay viable in a quickly changing market. Some are, some aren't, for a variety of reasons. Your press, for example, isn't moving into OA as dramatically as some others. How do you see the press evolving in the next several years? You mentioned sort of the flip of the digital to print ratio in sales.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, one we're always thinking of. We certainly engage in the OA conversation, although we
Right.
haven't found a model that works for the kind of publishing we do.
Mm-hmm.
As a not-for-profit publisher, we're channeling any revenue back into our book publishing program and investing in infrastructure and technology that is going to serve digital distribution for, this quality metadata and keywords,
Right.
and also channeling it back into the community. We're so fortunate to have the opportunity to fund initiatives like the Princeton Publishing Fellowship and supporting diverse voices book proposal grants, really looking at representation in publishing, both staff and our authors. So we're so excited about the initiatives that are underway there.
Mm-hmm.
And taking a look at the sales models, and how we support libraries and grow in this space. We're taking a big look at our backlist pricing, making sure that these titles that are decades old at this point haven't become prohibitively expensive. Taking a look at how we categorize textbooks. We realized that there were hundreds of textbooks that we'd categorized as such that no, we could actually make these available to libraries. We didn't have to withhold them. There's always been such an important relationship between university presses and libraries, existing in the same ecosystem, along with our scholars and readers. So it's just making sure that this is a healthy ecosystem for all
Right.
of us. And I think it's so important to always be agile and asking questions. Conversations like this that involve libraries and vendors and publishers is excellent. I mean, everything we do is an opportunity to learn, and I just am always reminding myself of that.
Yeah, excellent. That's fantastic. Likewise, Stephen, what are some of the signals OverDrive is paying close attention to as they relate to the academic market?
Just going back to both Susanna and Tracy were saying, like how having to justify and validate what they're doing and putting different metrics on it. Academic libraries are uniquely positioned to lead on campus because they touch everything. All students, all faculty eventually go through there and need access or need support from the library. We were probably more reactive to this in the last couple of years, but DEI, as we've seen a lot of, we look at our data and see, like, look at these titles circling through the roof, but we saw a lot of, academic libraries be more proactive, take a leading position under no mandate from the university whatsoever to put together collections, to, feature titles and just make them more accessible for the students. And you just saw them take off. And this year's a trend we've seen is like around mental health. So just recognizing and helping to empower librarians. One of the things that we are paying attention to does seem to be a lot more consolidation. I mean, I'm in Connecticut, and I see like our Connecticut State University system is eliminating local presidents from like the Eastern Connecticut State University and Western and so on. I know that's happening in Pennsylvania and a few other locations. And also just talking to some schools right now who are interested in OverDrive, but they're merging or acquiring other institutions. And they need the flexibility of being able to differentiate collections digitally and make specific titles available to specific campuses. And these are all things that OverDrive can do easily, and I'm sure as well as ProQuest and EBSCO too. But it is just the importance of digital, being proactive, giving the librarians the tools easily where they don't have to figure this stuff out. It's figured out for them. Like they have, I think one thing we've learned here, they have enough on their plate. So if we can just know, like, oh, you need to have, you have a campus in London and they only need access to these titles, we do that. And it's, they don't have to worry about it. They know it's just done seamlessly. So just paying attention to how we can continue to serve libraries, make their job, and librarians make their job a little bit easier. That's what we're trying to do.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, Paige, Tracy, Susanna, and Stephen, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. You just heard from Tracy Holtman, Associate Director of Access and Collection Services at Tarleton State University, Susanna Smith, Acquisitions Librarian at Georgia Highlands College, Paige Clunie, Digital Partnerships Manager at Princeton University Press, and Stephen Rosato, General Manager at OverDrive Academic. This 4-part series is brought to you with support from OverDrive. As always, sponsorship and advertising for the Authority File podcast are handled by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.